pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, roll, Atlantic.
Water towers can fly! Yes!
Tango Delta nominal.
Flighting outside speed off. Bring in, speed off. Off.
Yikes. You bet.
Okay.
We don't need any more of these.
And good evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you are around the world, and welcome to the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, where you are looking live at a Falcon 9 rocket on Slick 40, preparing to launch the COSMO-SkyMed Second Generation 2 satellite into a sun-synchronous orbit. We're going to take you all through that. I am Chris Gebhardt. I am the Assistant Managing Editor of NASASpaceflight, and I am here with the camera on the causeway here at the Space Center, and joining me on comms is Gav Cornwell. Gav, how's it going?
It is going great. The weather today, in terms of what we can see, is much improved. The only problems we've had with seeing the rocket so far have been some birds blocking our Port Canaveral cam. But hopefully the weather is going to improve. We've currently heard on the SpaceX comms net that the weather is currently red due to cloud roll, thick cloud roll, I think it is. So hopefully that will improve, but SpaceX is going to continue with the countdown to T-minus 2 minutes. But that is the current situation.
And that sort of matches what we've got. There's still a lot to talk about with the weather today, even though it is better than yesterday to many degrees. But we'll definitely get back to that, Gav. Also joining us on comms this evening is Julia Bergeron. Julia, how's it going?
Why, hello there, Chris, and I'm so sorry I am not with you today, but sometimes scrubs mean we have to be in a different location. So I am in Port Canaveral, where I can watch the launch and join you all here on stream.
Indeed, and we are glad to have you here, Julia, as well. Also producing in the background are Michael Baylor, and Stephen Marr is also here on base with us, but not immediately on comms, but we will hopefully have some good angles from him later on in the broadcast as well. But Gavin, you mentioned the weather, so I think let's talk about that because, yeah, visually, right, it's a lot better. You can actually see the rocket today, which is a victory from yesterday when you could not. At this time. But yeah, the issue today, there's an approaching cold front. So our thick cloud roll, which is one of the fancy ways of saying when a rocket goes through cloud of certain type, it can trigger lightning, and we don't want that to happen. So thick cloud rule, in effect, the upper level winds are also predicted to be moderate, a moderate chance of interfering with the liftoff today. So all told, there is a 70% chance of good weather today, but a 30% chance of not good weather. And as Gav, you were saying, obviously we're watching the thick cloud rule right now, and they're still going to fuel and take it down to about the T-minus 2 minute mark, hoping to find that hole in the weather today.
Absolutely. Fingers crossed we find that hole. SpaceX counting down all the way until T-minus 2 minutes to make that final call. But before we continue further, let's just introduce Jack. Jack, are you there? He might be there. Speak.
Well,
we'll come back to Jack. I have an excellent weather-based question, which might be up Julia's street, actually. Is a question from Dan Snelson, who says, during a 24-hour delay, how are media remote cameras sorted out? Are they collected, replaced, or left in situ?
That's a good question, and that was one that was on my mind this morning. So the way that it was set up was that we did not get an opportunity to reset our cameras. We were told when we set them for launch that they would probably be out for 48 hours, and the scheduled time to pick them up would be the next day after launch at 9 in the morning. So, well, let's put it this way. However we put our cameras out there, hopefully everybody had secure rain bags. Hopefully everybody's Tupperware boxes were tight because it rained for a long time. And then the temperatures will be getting a little bit chilly tonight, above freezing, but still in the 40s. So us photographers are hoping for the best. and hopefully we don't have lenses that are rain soaked or spotted, and that's just kind of how it is.
Right, awesome stuff. Okay, let's have another cracker introducing Jack Bayer. Are you there?
Yes, I am here. For once, the one time
Hey!
my laptop decides to not connect to my home Wi-Fi. But yes, I'm here and excited for the first of 2 back-to-back RTLSs.
Yes, that's right. You get one out there in Vandyland, don't you, Jack?
We sure do. That'll be next week, but right now we are looking at Slick 40, right?
Yes, indeed. Getting ready for the COSMO-SkyMed Second Generation 2 launch, which is coming up here. Instantaneous launch window today at 6:11 p.m. Eastern, which is 23:11 UTC. That is to hit a sun-synchronous orbit, inclined 97.8 degrees to the equator. And the reason for the 6:11 p.m. local launch time is so that COSMO-SkyMed can be placed into its orbit so that it is seeing the same places, passing over the same places at 6 a.m. and 1800 local time every single time it goes over those 2 locations twice a day. So that is what gives us our particular launch time here, just a few minutes after sunset here. So we're looking forward to a gorgeous launch of the Falcon 9 and an equally stunning planned return to launch site landing, which after the drought of those we've had to get 2 back-to-back is also really fun here.
Yeah, that's it's always cool to see RTLSs. Like, landing on a barge is kind of amazing and a technical feat, but returning to launch site when you get the sonic booms and you get all that good stuff, the rocket coming back, especially, and I'm gonna ask it. So I'm sure people are asking it right now on our question queue here, but since it's just after sunset, are we expecting a jellyfish effect?
Well, whether we expect it or not, you're not going to see it. So it's kind of a moot point today. It is completely overcast. Clouds are much higher up off the ground today than they were yesterday, as evidenced by the fact that we can see the top of the rocket. But it is completely overcast. So she will disappear into the clouds here before staging. So if you're not in Central Florida, maybe look, but again, jellyfishes are those weird, like, morning, they're more of a morning phenomenon here. They do happen in the evening, but they're more of a morning phenomenon here.
Makes sense. Cool. Well, don't forget, everybody, you can ask questions by typing at NASASpaceflight in chat, and that will show up in some nifty software that Michael wrote, and we can answer those questions for you.
Hey,
I have a
Jack.
good opening question.
No. I bet I know what it is.
Go on, Julia.
Have we gotten the what are those 4 towers question yet?
We might have had that question from Musical Wolves, long-time supporter of NASA Spaceflight, who was asking, can the 4 towers vent?
No, they cannot. Chris, would you like to tell our maybe newer viewers what those 4 towers are for?
Yeah, so these are our lightning protection towers at Slick 40. Don't need them today, but they would basically channel any lightning. The towers themselves would attract the lightning discharge and then channel the energy safely to the ground, protecting the rocket, the pad, the systems, the propellant, everything that is sort of there. These particular 4 towers are simply lightning protection towers, the 4 that you see around the big central rocket there. However, other towers at other launch pads that include the lightning protection system also double as service gantries to fuel the vehicle. So some lightning protection towers can vent, others cannot. Just kind of depends on what the makeup of the pad is.
See, in here I thought it was just a goofy question, like a modification of the 4 towers question, but hey, if some of them can actually vent, I learned something today. Let's see. Thank you, Nosk, for becoming a Capcom member. We super appreciate your support as a new member and all of our member support. As a reminder, we have the membership program. It allows you to support us directly, which is so appreciated because it really helps. Those monthly contributions allow us to do what we do and sort of plan things out, and it's just insanely helpful. So at Capcom membership and above, you get Discord access. At the other levels, you get various things like a special chat emoji and preview videos and photos and whatnot up on the member page on our YouTube channel. So thank you so much to Nosk7 for the new membership, and thank you to all of our members. Just want a quick shout out to our members. Thank you, guys. Let's see. You want to start going through questions?
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jamie Steam is asking, this booster is a little sooty from previous missions. Do they give the outside a scrub or clean after use, or is it not relevant?
It is not relevant, basically. So there is no real reason that you would need to clean the outside of the Falcon 9 unless you were doing what we call sort of non-destructive evaluations. Basically, if you want to like put X-ray machines or some type of scanning equipment there just to verify the health of welds, sometimes you'll remove the soot, but other than that, if there's no technical reason to, from a turning the vehicle around standpoint, everything is left as is.
Do you think they have to account for the weight of the material that builds up, like the soot or whatever, or do you think it's just so negligible in the grand scheme of things?
That's an excellent question. They definitely would, but I think the second part of that is exactly the point of this. It's so negligible compared to the lift capacity of the Falcon 9 that, you know, the couple does, you know, the few kilograms you might have of soot here or there on the outside of your rocket aren't going to make a difference when you're talking about a, 6 metric ton satellite to geostationary transfer orbit.
The reason I ask, Chris, and hey, I'm going to bring up shuttle, so somebody ring the shuttle bell, is because famously the external tank was painted at first for the first, I think, 2 or 3 missions. It was painted white. And that was like something like 500 pounds of paint, like a non-zero amount of paint. So it makes sense why they wouldn't paint the Falcon 9 over again, right? Because that would be a potentially significant amount of weight, but the soot, not so much.
Indeed. That was one of the primary driving reasons that history has recorded for the paint being removed from the external tank. The real reason is they never planned to keep it white for the entirety of the program. It was painted for UV radiation protection because those 2 missions were going to be out on the launch pads much longer than normal flows. So that's why the first 2 tanks were white. It's just a nice talking point to say, oh, and it also ended up saving 600 pounds. It's not why they stopped painting it, though.
Oh, that's fascinating. Thank you, Chris. Yay, shuttle. Let's see. We have James Van Hartz, or Harris? I'm sorry for butchering your names, James. Thank you for the support. They say, what is the jellyfish effect? Love your work and look forward to every video and stream. So Chris was saying that it is overcast right now out there. So if you're in that area of Florida, you probably won't be seeing a jellyfish. And also it's more of a morning thing. But in general, who wants to take a crack at describing what that effect is? Because some of our newer viewers might not know exactly what we're talking about there.
Yeah, so basically what it is, as the rocket ascends into vacuum and you ignite the second stage, which is the vacuum optimized engine, the one with the bigger engine bell, the way that the particles that come out of the engine, right, the burned fuel that's coming out of the engine bell, the way what's created in the burning of kerosene and oxygen can create elements in the atmosphere that can refract sunlight. So what you are seeing when you see the jellyfish effect is the second stage exhaust plume refracting the light in the upper atmosphere. So in order to get that effect, the sun generally has to be between you and the sun, which is why in Florida it's more of a morning thing. It can happen in the evening under correct conditions, but it's more of a morning thing here in Florida and more of an evening thing out in California. But it's just refraction of sunlight off of the particles that are in the atmosphere as they come out of the engine.
Yeah, seeing a launch is one thing. It's amazing. And if you haven't been able to do it yet, whenever you get a chance, I highly recommend it. But seeing a launch with the jellyfish effect, ooh boy, it's a whole nother ball of wax. It's absolutely the coolest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Highly recommend. Should any of our viewers get a chance.
And I'll open that up too to it's not just US rockets that do that. The Soyuzes have done incredible morning and evening jellyfish effects from their launches from Baikonur and Vostochny, which I totally just butchered the pronunciation of that site, but it's my apologies. But yeah, any rocket can do it. So if you do get the chance to see a rocket in that just before sunrise, just after sunset time frame, definitely see it.
Good to note, but also no other rocket does return to launch site, and that is kind of
That's
an
true.
extra special twist on the jellyfish, because you're not only getting the jellyfish, you're getting the interaction between the returning rocket's engine and the second stage engine and all of that goodness. It's quite wild. Anyways, I think that's probably sufficient jellyfish discussion here. How about we talk about the fairings? I saw some pictures pre-launch. Those fairings look pretty haggard. Julia or Gavin, do either of you would you like to talk about what we're looking at with those fairings and how many times they've been reused, that sort of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the fairing is actually looking quite gnarly. It's got some quite significant scar marks on it. So these fairings are reused. So one half of the fairing previously supported the Transporter 1, Transporter 2, and a Starlink mission. So that's free, and this will be its fourth flight. And the other half previously supported 3 flights, that being Saurocom 1B, Transporter 2, and a Starlink mission as well. And again, SpaceX will intend to recover the fairing halves today. One of their recovery ships, named Bob, is about 640 kilometers downrange near Cuba, and is stationed to pick up the fairing from the water after it splashes down under a parafoil control. And fingers crossed that going all well, a couple of days from now, the ship will return to Port Canaveral, the fairings will be offloaded, they'll be processed, and we'll see them flying again in the future.
It's still mind-blowing to me. I mean, yeah, the rocket returning to land, that's mind-blowing. A lot of things about what SpaceX does with Falcon 9 we now take as commonplace, but it's still absolutely, utterly wild and really cool. But the fact that they can recover a fairing out of the salt water and then refurbish and reuse them multiple times is just, I don't know if that'll ever be commonplace to me in my mind.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of work went into that, 'cause obviously in the early days of fairing recovery, SpaceX was pretty intent on trying to catch the fairing halves. They had these fairing catcher ships, Mystery and Mischief. The idea of those being that to keep them away from salt water. But as the program has progressed, SpaceX has made changes and developed the fairings such that they're now okay to land in salt water for a short period and then be collected. So the development process there has actually gone quite well, and we're at the point where it's unusual for them to not recover fairing half or for it to come back damaged. So it is fairly consistent at this point.
So cool. So cool. And I think it's like $3 million a fairing half or something like that. At least that's
It is
what I
indeed,
remember
yeah.
from way back when. I don't know, maybe they've made it cheaper over time, but that's $6 million a launch. That's no small amount to be recovering. Just, hey, if you told me I could pluck $6 million out of the water with a boat, I would absolutely try it.
Yeah, you'd send the boat.
Right? Because now, if I did my math right, that means we're looking at $18 million worth of fairings right there, but it really only was $6 million plus some refurbishment costs and some fuel for the ship, of course. But holy cow, that's some crazy math.
Yeah, somebody call Peter Beck up and tell him that marine assets don't necessarily suck.
Oh, that hurts me.
I'm sorry, Gavin. Me saying that to you is like somebody saying,
I'm just going to leave.
Corridor
See you later,
to me.
guys.
Oh,
And there
sorry.
is
Gut
our
punch 'em.
T-minus 20-minute vent that is beginning.
Look at that. And that is a good sign that the fueling process for Falcon 9 is progressing as nominal. Does anyone want to go over the T-minus 20-minute vent that we're currently looking at?
Indeed. Yeah, so this is a transition in propellant loading operations. So the bottom part of the rocket, the first stage that will come back to return to launch site land, receives its liquid oxygen and liquid kerosene together. So those two propellants start flowing in at T-minus 35 minutes. They flow into the vehicle until about the 2.5 minute mark. All is good. But the second stage actually fuels a little differently. So they start pumping in the RP1 kerosene first at T-minus 35 minutes. They put all the kerosene in the vehicle, then they stop, and they do what they're doing now, which is inerting the lines. So they're pushing gaseous nitrogen through all of the lines on the transporter erector, purging the various propellant lines so there isn't an accidental ignition as they prepare to transition over to the fueling of the liquid oxygen that will be loaded into the second stage of the vehicle beginning at the T-minus 16 minute mark. So that is what we are seeing here for the Falcon 9. And you will see one more at roughly the T-minus 2-minute mark, which is the final purging of the ground systems before liftoff.
Very cool. Well, thank you for that, Chris. And looking good. We're just under 19 minutes away from launch of CSG-2 from Slick 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. Thank you, everybody that is watching, for watching today. Really quick, let's run through some super chats. Anush, what's up, dude? Thank you for the support. They say Jack Fan Club, can't wait for launch. Thanks, man. Kavan Aldred, thank you for becoming a PadRat member. Once again, thank you so much to all of our members. We really 100% could not do what we do without y'all. Streams from the West Coast, streams from the East Coast, streams from French Guiana. What? 24/7 Starbase streams, Fleet Cam 24/7. I mean, we're doing a lot. We're trying to gear up to do more, and we appreciate all of our members. So thank you, Kavan. I hope I'm not butchering your name too bad. Enjoy the member perks that you get with that level of support. Let's see. Looks like Chris is adjusting the camera a bit here. Go ahead, Chris.
I was indeed. I was going to say, you know what else is preparing to work really hard? The CSG-2 satellite that's on board this rocket. We haven't talked about the payload on board yet today. Maybe
Let's talk
we should
about
do
it.
that.
Yeah.
So CSG-2, as the name implies, is the second of the second generation of the COSMO-SkyMed weather satellite. So this is a weather observation satellite. So CSG-1, the first part of the second generation, was launched in December of 2019 on a Soyuz rocket from Kourou in French Guiana. The CSG satellites themselves are from the Italian Space Agency, designed and manufactured by the Italians in cooperation with the French and the French government, specifically the military. So they are, in large part, weather observation satellites and ground observation satellites designed to assist in the response to natural disasters. So most notably, the CSG constellation, of which there's more than one. This is just the second generation, so the first generation is still up there. They were instrumental in taking some of those initial photographs after the Tonga volcano eruption earlier this month. So really, really cool system. They're meant to operate together. They're synthetic aperture radar satellites, so they can see through all types of weather to the ground. And if it's in military mode, it can see down to 0.8 meters resolution. And if it is in regular person mode, it can see down to 3 meters of resolution available to the general public. So all told, a really good system. There's a lot of international cooperation too, not just with the launch here on a Falcon 9 of an Italian and French vehicle, but also from Argentina. Because the CSG satellites also sort of overlap with and are complementary to the SAOCOM 1A and SAOCOM 1B, which were both launched out of Vandenberg and Florida as well for Argentine Earth observation. So that is what is on board today. So a shout out to the Italian Space Agency and the French government for the CSG-2 satellite.
Very cool. Yeah, that imagery you're talking about of the Tonga eruption, wow. I mean, that is a kind of mind-blowing imagery that you can get out of a satellite, and that it's just something that really puts the sense of scale into the interactions that go on in our environment when something like a volcano eruption happens.
Yeah, and a fairly significant one at that, too, with Hunga Tonga. Yeah.
Let's see, Roger Douglas, thank you for the support. Musical Wolves, thank you for the support. They say, can the moon backlight the booster for a jellyfish? I don't know if it's like a full moon.
Yes, it can, and we've seen it before. Yes, it bizarrely looks purple when it is illuminated by the moon.
That's amazing.
Yes, the moon can do it as well. Yep.
It's like levels of rarity. Have you seen a launch? Have you seen a jellyfish launch? Have you seen a moon jellyfish launch?
Right.
I love it. Let's see. Kavan, thank you for the support. They say, will the second stage be doing most of the inclination change after it gets through the atmosphere? That's typically how that works, right, Chris? Or is it the job of the spacecraft itself?
Well, it kind of depends on what you mean by this. So I'm going to answer this a couple different ways depending on what's meant. So the booster and the second stage will together do so the booster will start off as close to the desired inclination. In this case, it's 97.8 degrees. But it can't get directly onto that because of Landover flight in Florida. So it will go as close to that as possible and then hand off to the second stage, which will finish the maneuver in the dogleg orientation. So it is both stages that get you to the desired orbital inclination that you want today.
Very cool. Good question there from Kavan, and thank you again, buddy, for the new membership. Wolfram, thanks for the support. They say, for the Gator Defense Fund, have I given enough overtime for one person to be outfitted so far? Chris, you need like some snake boots and some, I don't know, spiky waders. I'm not quite sure what we're thinking here, but I think we can get Chris outfitted a little bit, right?
Oh, we can. I'd be up for that. Yeah.
Are you feeling safe?
I'm feeling safe 30 feet from the water, yeah.
Just remember, zigzag. Zigzag.
Yes, exactly, zigzag. It's so true, zigzag, yes.
I never actually have been told, like, you're always told when you live in Florida, like, zigzag when you run away from an alligator. Is that true, or is that an urban legend? I think as long as you're running away, you're probably good.
It's an urban legend, yeah.
Love it. Let's see. Thank you, Kavan, for the additional support. Thank you, Jim, who says, keep up the great work. We really appreciate that, Jim. And Matt Patrick, thank you for becoming a new Capcom member. When you get Discord access, Matt, pop in Discord. I will greet you with my customary Forrest Gump wave. All right. We are 12 minutes and 45 seconds away from launch. What's the weather like? Are we green for weather, Chris?
The last report that we had is that they were red on weather for the for thick cloud violation rules. So basically, that's one of our fancy ways here at the 45th of saying lightning warning, lightning warning. So basically, what it means, thick cloud means that under normal natural conditions, lightning would not be triggered, but rockets are basically gigantic lightning rods when they launch, and they leave a trail of chemically charged particles all the way back to the ground. In other words, they are really conducive to triggering lightning, because as the rocket ascends through clouds, the way it interacts with the atmosphere is that it lowers the overall potential of energy that's needed in the atmosphere to trigger a lightning strike. And we do not allow that to happen in the United States. That is a hard no-go rule from the military ranges. You cannot launch when you have the chance of triggering a lightning strike, not just for the ability to still be able to control the vehicle and destroy it if something goes wrong after that, but also just for the safety of the payload on board and the safety of those on the ground.
Very, very true. You do not want to be hit by lightning while you are rocketing through the air, literally. Famously, Apollo 12 struck by lightning, right? Was there a shuttle mission? Was there any shuttle missions?
No. The shuttles, no, because lightning was bad for a different reason for shuttle than just what regular vehicles had to what regular rockets sort of would have had to have contended with. So no. There was a dicey launch one time in some rain, but not a lightning violation or anything like that.
Gotcha. You'll have to tell me about it later.
Yeah. It was one of the early program missions when they were arguably still learning. Yes.
Very cool.
Yeah. And it is worth noting. Days like this are always a little odd. To be standing here for a launch at the Space Center on January 28th is always something that makes you remember where we've been before, the lessons that we have had to learn. And one of the things, it's good that you bring up the weather today, Jack, because 36 years ago today, it was the weather that ultimately wasn't listened to by those in charge, and we lost the Challenger crew 36 years ago today because we didn't stop to listen to what the weather was telling us. Always stop to listen to the weather, especially when there are people on board, not just when there are people on board, but on today of all days, we'll see if they can get good weather. If they get good weather and they go, that's great. If they don't, we'll stop and we'll do it tomorrow.
Indeed.
And I think if we don't and we stop and we do it tomorrow, that's a good thing to remember on today of all days. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a particularly somber day in spaceflight, and yeah, just leave it at that. Let's see. Really quickly, the Captain Fuzzy, thank you for becoming a launch director. That is a higher level of membership, and we really appreciate your support.
All right. Julia, are you still there?
Why, yes, Gavin, I am still here.
I have a question that is right up your street. So it's a question from Robert Lerman, who asks, at NASASpaceflight, are they doing more RTLS flights at the moment because they are down a drone ship? Do you want to explain what it means by being down a drone ship?
Oh, well, being down a drone ship means that we had a hard landing, and the drone ship, well, it needs a little bit of love. So,
Which drone ship is that?
The
Ooh, it sounds like we're losing you really bad there, Julia.
Hello.
Yeah.
Let's try again. Do you copy? If not,
yeah, Julia, it sounds like everyone's just getting on their phones as we get toward launch. I think I'm getting about every third word.
Okay.
But I think what Julia was saying there is that they had a hard landing.
Chris, sorry to interrupt, but we unfortunately just had a hold on the countdown net, and we are scrubbed for the day.
So there you go, scrubbed for the day. A hold in this situation was an instantaneous single-second window at 6:11. So with that, we have scrubbed for today. I just want to answer the question that Julia was answering, though, really quick. Just reading the instructions had a hard landing and is undergoing repairs, which is why it is not one of the current active drone ships that we have here on the East Coast. That is falling to a shortfall of gravitas, which in January has just been constantly going back and forth to the Bahamas to grab the Starlink boosters after those launches, and we'll do so again theoretically on Sunday for that one. But we are not doing return to launch site landings because we are down a drone ship. You can only do a return to launch site landing when the mass of the payload and the orbital target you're trying to reach allow the first stage to reserve enough propellant to boost back toward the launch site. It just so happens that when we went down a drone ship, we had 2 RTLS back-to-back missions scheduled for that same month, ironically, or coincidentally, however you want to look at that. But no, we're not doing RTLS just because we're down a drone ship. These would have been RTLS regardless.
Very cool. Thanks for answering that, Chris.
Yeah.
All right. Well.
Indeed, and yeah, I think with that, what is the plan here, guys?
We're going to wrap it up. So we will let you get out of there and get your gear packed up. Thank you so much to Chris Gebhardt for being out there in the field today and operating the camera and answering some questions. You've also heard the voice of Gavin Cornwall. Thank you, Gavin, for being on the call, on the stream.
Always a pleasure.
And let's see, you've also heard the voice of, you can see Gavin's information there pop up. You've also heard the voice of Julia. Julia, we got you for an outro? Perhaps not, but thank you, Julia, for being on. And of course, out there in the field as well, we had Stephen Marr, who was operating a camera that you didn't get to see yet, I don't think. So be sure to stay tuned for when this launch actually does go. We'll have some multiple angles for you, hopefully. And thank you to Stephen for being out there. And of course, Michael Baylor in the background. I'm Jack Beyer. That's NASA Spaceflight for today. Hopefully we get a launch of this vehicle on a day with better weather. And that's that. Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
The chamber pressure looks good. Throttling up.
Roger, roll, Atlantis.
Water towers can fly! Yes!
Tango Delta nominal.
Flight down, speed off. Bring in, SCE off.
Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.